Hi there. Hello again. And thank you for joining us today on Policy and Sass. I am Emily Wycpalek, owner of Ground Up Insurance Agency, and this is my sassy friend.
My name is Amy Luginbill, and I'm with Collier Insurance Group.
And Amy, today's the day. What are we talking about?
We are talking about all things claims, um, problems, pain points, how to get the best experience, all of that stuff that comes along with what you expect out of your policy when things hit the fan.
Gotcha. And I know first one for me, and I often hear this negatively, but this is not a negative thing. The first thing you should really do when you have a claim or you're in a situation that may be a claim situation is number one, call your agent.
Yes, yes, for sure. Um, what is the number one reason you tell people that?
The number one reason I tell people that is because I know what they are covered for. I also know how the system goes. And bottom line, if they call in to ask a question of the claims department, it is considered a claim. For some reason, and I have no idea why, they don't put in their inquiry or, anything else. So on the clue report, it looks like an unpaid claim.
Exactly. And I've been told in the past because I've asked that question from a lot of claim reps that I've worked with. And I'm like, why is this? Why can't insureds just ask generic questions? And they said that's because when you call into like the 1-800 center, you're not talking to a claim rep, you're just talking to a service or sales rep, and because they're not trained in the claim details as to processes, what and all those specifics that can make and break a claim, they don't want them having those conversations. They want those conversations had by a claim rep, but those claim reps can only have those conversations once a claim number is assigned. So
Yeah, but then, Amy, why aren't they going back and clearing them up? Because I can tell you, I have had issues where people have had open claims that have been open for years and had issues because they just needed to get that claim closed. They may even no longer be with the company.
broken processes, uh it really, it just surmounts to the system doesn't exactly work that great. Like, they're just not able to tweak it in a meaningful way. Like, they're still trying to almost run claims the way they ran claims 30 years ago, like way back in the day, and not thinking that nowadays we need to kind of do things a little differently, I think.
Yeah. And it's been really interesting. I had someone who had a claim issue on a commercial vehicle. Um, but the claim issue, so I'm writing a commercial vehicle policy and wife had been in an accident. But they attributed it to the household and so it followed the man who owned the company because he worked out of his house. So the clue report didn't have any details in it other than the fact that there was an accident and it was associated to this. And I'm like, I got the prior insurer to send me a copy of a loss runs on that to show that that was not their claim. And the response from the underwriter person who was working it was she couldn't do anything about it, that I would have to report that to LexisNexis.
Oh gosh. So
And I don't need to report it to LexisNexis. I need you to pull up the full clue report because it'll tell you exactly who the individual was that is responsible. And that's kind of interesting in the fact that we have the clue report, right? It's this one thing, but why are they not holding, because these make a difference on people's rates and what's happening with these policies, why aren't they doing a better job of making sure that the information is accurate?
well, why is it, I guess a better question would be, why is it the insured's job to make sure it's accurate? Why aren't the insurance companies held to a higher standard when they are reporting this? It would be like the bank reporting something inaccurate on my credit report, but it's my fault. So now I have to figure it out. Like, if it's inaccurate, it's inaccurate. Why aren't they doing more about it? And why aren't they being held to the higher standard? It it's a really frustrating process.
I know. And you look at QA stuff, quality assurance stuff. Why is there none of that run on the claims, the actual claims reporting? That is really interesting to me. Why couldn't they get into the claims reporting and pull it up and do just like they are on the sales side and the service side and say, okay, this is great, but the reporting says this and it was an inquiry. So why didn't you mark it as an inquiry? But Amy, honestly, I don't even know if that's an option. So when I worked at Nationwide at one point, when we had something that came in that was incorrect, or was reported by one of the customers and it needed to be fixed, it had to be fixed by the original claims adjuster. So there wasn't anyone in between. The claims adjuster owned the reporting. They were the only ones who could touch the reporting. And so when they touched the reporting, they could remove things off of there, that were inquiries, but you had to tell them to do it. Give me a break.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. Um, I was doing research for this because I'm a big nerd. I like helping people with their claims because it is such an important moment. It's where all this money you've paid to an insurance company, this is the moment where it should pay off. You should get what you are covered for. So I like helping people with these. But I was reading online when I was searching this back this last year in Florida during the hurricane. There was a homeowner who, of course, they had water damage from the hurricane, which would have been covered under their policy. And they turned it in, and the adjuster came out and walked into the house and was walking around and then said, okay, thank you, walked out. And then they got a letter saying, hey, that claim's not covered. And they were like, what? And they were trying to say because when you walked into the house and you walked down the hall to get into the living room, you stepped down 5 inches. They were defining that 5 inches as a basement. A
Oh my
basement.
goodness.
That is like the
Yeah.
tiniest basement ever. But it's like things like that just shock me. And they seriously were having to fight. And what's sad is the way they had to fight the insurance company is they had to call the news. And how terrible is it that your only method of getting the insurance company to listen to you is to call them out on the 5 o'clock news?
Exactly. Well, and Amy, you've had a situation where the only ways you can get insurance companies to respond to you on certain things, otherwise is to call them out on LinkedIn. That's ridiculous. Is that's the only way that we're going to get some sort of conversation in place. So I have a claim story. So I was working um during the time California right in the twist. So all of a sudden you had this big change on fire wildfire thing, and it was just coming down the line. All of a sudden, you were seeing companies non-renew, and then they had the flood, the California flood, in something that in an area that didn't usually flood. They had a really bad storm, and we had a lot of people calling us because they were being canceled and non-renewed. However, because there was so much flood damage, they hadn't gotten their flood claim fixed yet. So here's this company telling them that they're canceling, non-renewing, and within the month, right? And it was really because of it's the wildfire that they were being non-renewed for. But then they had an open claim. To me, that's broken. There should be no reason, if you have an open claim on a policy, that you should be allowed to non-renew someone, because they
Yeah,
couldn't get it. It was an open, they could not get coverage anywhere else because they had a gaping hole in their roof
right,
and it
right.
wasn't fixed yet.
But I don't know why, period, you're allowed to non-renew someone because they filed a claim. Like, ever. Like, that shouldn't, like, that's the purpose of your insurance policy. Now, okay, exception, you filed 12 claims in the last 3 years. Okay, well, we might need to have a conversation. But to just non-renew somebody because they actually used their insurance, that's like repoing somebody's car because they drove it.
Well, and then look at this. Amy, how so if you paid out, so I talked recently about a gentleman who had water issues one after the other. It was a duplex, it was a multi-family building, one after the other, completely replumbed the whole thing, right? And so here they've spent $50,000 and he spent his portion on it. Okay. So they have all new plumbing. And instead of wanting to continue to take advantage of the fact that they paid big money to renew this house's infrastructure, instead they were going to non-renew him. And we all know, I don't know how many places will not write you for one, not to mention two water claims on the same building.
Right.
That's a no-go. I mean, that's straight to non-admitted. But here's the thing. Like you said, insurance is about indemnification, right?
Right.
So if we look at how much he paid in, he did not pay that much. He hasn't owned the house long enough. Okay. Why wouldn't they want to keep him on there and get that premium back?
Yeah. But again, we're punishing the insureds for using their insurance. It's a broken, I mean, I sound like a broken record right now. It's a broken system. It's don't use your insurance because God forbid if you do, you're going to be punished. And if you do need to use your insurance, well, you better be ready to fight because they're not going to make it easy on you. And we all wonder why people are so frustrated. And, we get such vitriol from people. I like that word. I heard it today. And I was like, ooh, I need to start using that more.
Time.
Um, we get such vitriol from people when we're, trying to help them with their insurance. And they're like, well, I had such a bad experience. Well, unfortunately, you're not alone. There's a lot of people who've had bad experiences. And that goes back to what you said. Call your agent. And if you don't have an agent, get an agent because those are the people who are going to be in your corner.
Well, and think about it. So the deductible that I choose on my home is my part of the portion of saying, I won't even talk to you about this if it's this amount. I'll take care of it.
Right.
Like, you won't hear from me. This is a responsibility that I can afford to take on. Okay.
Right.
And you have a claim that surpasses that, and you're still trying to decide, okay, am I going to go with the higher rate or am I going to go with the claim? I had a woman, and you helped me, I think, shop this one too, on some of the access that you had. But I had a woman who had 1 year she lost a few shingles off her roof. Okay. And so she made a claim for $700.
Oh no.
Yeah. And she had a $500 deductible. She was a happy little camper. It wasn't that big of a deal. She has insurance. Why shouldn't she take advantage of it? A year later, like a year and 13 days to the date, complete damage on the roof, and the roof completely needs to be redone. And so they got a brand new roof. But because she took this little $700 claim, which she even says I had no business taking. I didn't know. Like, if you own a home and you have insurance, you know, why wouldn't you take advantage of that? If
Right.
you don't have to come out of pocket. And it's a big thing because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And
Right.
it's looking, is this going to hurt me? I had such an issue trying to find coverage for her. And she had ridiculously low deductibles, and there was no way she was even going to be. I mean, hello, we're going to 1 to 2 to 3%
Right.
for wind and hail around here, and she was at $1,000 for wind and hail, and I'm like, yeah, that is not your reality anymore.
Right. I did hear. So one of my good friends used to be a client of mine, but unfortunately, due to relocation, I can't write him at the time right now. He called me because he was needing to open a home claim. They're selling their house. The roof is just needs to be replaced. And I walked him through the steps, and he calls me back a couple of days later and said, "Well, we got denied because they're trying to say it's blistering." I hate that. I hate that more than ever when they try to blame hail damage on blistering, but whatever. And I said, "Okay, well, have you talked to your roofing contractor?" And he's like, "Yeah, he recommended this guy." And this is a new thing. I don't know if you've known this. There are people now who are charging a flat rate to fight the insurance company on your behalf and send demand letters for you, citing, policy and legal verbiage in hopes that that demand letter breaks through that underwriter's reasoning. And honestly, I told him, I said, "Well, it's up to you. I can't tell you to spend that money because it wasn't cheap, honestly. It was quite a good chunk of change." I said, "It's up to you if you pay him to do this, but at this point, the only other recourse, because I can't call and talk to your carrier on your behalf, I'm not your agent, is to just try to call and talk to the adjuster yourself." And he just went ahead and spent the money, and it was approved, and they paid for the roof. And but it was just such a weird thing that is now a option for people, that there is someone who has made that a career path, arguing demand letters for carriers.
Well, there was a LinkedIn post by one of the insurance attorneys that usually works for carriers. And so, of course, to him, customers are the bad guys. They're trying to get
Mhm.
one over on the carriers and that kind of thing. So he was talking about a roof claim that came in that the carrier refused to cover, but they brought a public adjuster in. They got it covered. They got the money that they needed. Everything was taken care of. And somehow they found out on the back end that the public adjuster came in and was paid through the roof money.
Oh. Uh, oh.
So they were the public, and I mean, basically as a roofer, you have to be a public adjuster now anyways. You have to be
True.
able to use the correct language and everything. But they were mad that he was paid this money to get this done, and they felt like it should have come out of the policyholder's pocket, that they should have had to separately pay for the public adjuster. But here's my issue with that. Where's the accountability for the carrier when they have not done their due diligence by trying to find out if they should pay for something or not? And you have to hire someone out of pocket to make them pay, to make them do what you already paid for, in some cases for years. Why is that okay? And I would have it so that the public adjuster was paid for. If they cited on the side and they covered it, then the public adjuster would have to be paid for by the carrier.
Yeah. Okay. Case in point. I know I sent it to you, the Senate hearings where they had brought in um those big name carriers
Uh,
that
How
um
diplomatic of you.
I know. Well, don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah.
I kind of do, but I won't. Um, they brought in those big name carriers and they had to testify according to what had happened because they had adjusters testifying that they were being forced to change their reports and to fit the carrier's assumptions and the carrier's points. So if they send that third party adjuster out and that third party adjuster says, yes, that roof is totaled, this is how much it should cost, this is our estimate based off the size, the materials, and that carrier's adjuster comes in and says, oh no, we're not going to cover that roof, take it out of your report, then they were forcing these third-party adjusters to modify their reports so that way they could stand and deny those claims. Why are those carriers I don't know, like allowed to do that? Like immediately when that third-party adjuster goes out to those homeowners, I'm sorry, that report shouldn't just go to the carrier. It should go to both the insured and the carrier at the same time. It should be a courtesy copy immediately, not after the fact. I shouldn't have to get it from the carrier later on. It should be going directly from that third party adjuster to both.
And here's the magic word on why it won't: proprietary information, because the carrier paid for it and it's theirs. So they can get it to say whatever they want. But here's another point on that. When you get insurance, Amy, when you get insurance and you pay for the year, the big question is, are you paying for a year of coverage, or are you paying for a relationship that if you need to make a claim and be made whole, that's what you're paying for? And I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but are you paying for that piece of paper that promises you that they're going to take care of you that year? Or are you overall paying for insurance? So again, if you have a claim, they're going to honor it and pay the claim. Because here's the thing with insurance carriers, once you had a good year and you didn't make a claim, it's like, cha-ching, that's our money now.
Right.
No, it's not. It is not your money. It is the money that we've entrusted for you in order to be ready and to invest and to make larger so that we can cover claims for whoever needs a claim and is, you know, put in the same law of large numbers with me, you know, but it is not, oh, okay, this is ours now. That is not the way that it should work. And I think that's where we're broken. I think when you pay premium, it is based on the promise that you're paying that in good faith, that if you have a claim come up, that it will be paid out.
Yeah. But here's the thing, that those reports and everything, I'm sorry, I I don't agree that they paid for it. I paid for it with my insurance dollars. I paid for it in the fact that if I do file a claim and you do pay for it, you know what? You're going to surcharge me that claim for the next 5 years for some carriers, 3 with some, but I'm still going to pay for that. That is my report. It's about my property, my house. You are just the one who ordered the report, and you ordered it on my behalf. So I guess I I still believe that we have it as insureds have a right to that info, and we have a
Oh, and
right
I
to that
love it.
info.
I love it. It's completely transparent. Here's
Hmm.
what, and I had a friend who made a claim on a storm from a few weeks ago over by you in Brownwood, made a claim. The adjuster came out, said, "No worries, this will be covered." Well, he came back like a week later to go and take pictures and everything, and all of a sudden it was no longer, "Don't worry about this. This is going to be covered." And of course, it was ultimately denied.
Right. Because that adjuster got in there and decided it didn't fit their narrative, so now we're going to deny that claim, which that's then where those insureds get frustrated because you got the person standing on your roof going, "Oh yeah, don't worry. This is definitely hail damage. You are 100% fine." And then you get the stupid adjuster who probably has been an adjuster for 2 years, works 50 cases in a month, and they're just rubber stamping the denial left and right so that way their denial numbers are good because they're meeting quotas.
Yeah.
And that's what's frustrating because at that point, homeowners are like, well, why should I carry home insurance then? If you're not gonna if you're not gonna pay my claim and you're not gonna cover me when I have a loss, why should I pay you anything? Why should I pay cover it have anything at all?
And here's the ultimate. So from working in insurance at a corporate level and hearing, like I always said, these are very siloed. One of the things that we were proudest about was wonderful claims experiences that we gave to people. That was their legitimacy. That was their pride of when they did good stewardship, and took care of all their policyholders by not paying out something they shouldn't have paid out, but that they could make this person whole and they could do these things. And during a cat loss, set up a mobile whatever so that they could get checks out as quickly as possible. That's where they shine. And it's like, have you ever heard that saying? Um, when they say that, like, in really tough situations, that's when, your character comes out, but that's when character is revealed. That's This is the time that as a carrier you can shine and you can do good and be better. And keep in mind that the money that was entrusted in you in premium over the years isn't a swing, let's give everyone a bonus, because they all, because of their denial rate. But instead, they can go, look at the good we did. And instead of, if you're going to give people a bonus, give it to them based on the amount of money you won, that you made. Quit doing it based on losses. It doesn't even make sense in this cat climate that we've had for the last couple of years. It is ridiculous that people get punished for working harder. Because I'm telling you right now, if you're a claims person and you're working these cat claims, we would jump in there as salespeople, as customer service to help the claims department with the number of claims and it's a team effort. That's what you incentivize. Those
Yeah.
experiences, those things when people stand up. And if you made $5 billion, there's your amount that you're going to, you know, celebrating, and you're going to put enough away so that if we have a cat claim or 3 or 4 that next year, that you have enough to cover that.
Right.
Instead of saying that, oh my gosh, we had so many claims losses. Hello, welcome to the world. And what was your response to these claim situations? To turn tail and leave. To
Oh,
run away from
totally.
California, to run away from Florida, to run away from Louisiana and New Jersey and all these places where they needed you to stand up and take your market share and take your loss. You weren't there. And
Well,
I think that when people are looking at insurance companies, that it all should be based on how that company handled the claims of the biggest area of loss. Did they turn tail and hike it out of there? Did they, quit covering? Did they do massive non-renews after a cat event? Then it's time to say, that's too bad. For what you did to them, you caused my rates to go up, because that's the truth. Law of large numbers were all put
right.
together. So when you left that market, all of a sudden my rates went up to help cover this market. And, the businesses that stayed around got to determine what that rate was.
Yeah. And then it irks me when, because we get those notifications about, you know, this carrier had a $770 million loss this last quarter. And you're like, you're toting that around like a badge of honor so everybody knows how much you paid out. Well, on the back end, you're still paying your executives millions upon millions of dollars. You're taking expensive trips to the Bahamas to with your admin team so that way you can team build. I'm sorry, you're taking your $1 million agents to Hawaii to celebrate all of their sales. Well, I'm sorry, there are things that need to be cut, and things like that are the things that need to be cut so that way we can start taking care of the insureds. And
But how would you hear? I mean, if you didn't have that Super Bowl commercial that cost you millions, last billions of dollars, how would you know who Nationwide was? How would you know who Liberty Mutual was if you didn't have Emu and Doug and that big, huge, expensive marketing campaign? Because I mean, I've never heard of them.
right. And I feel like they make all these excuses as to why rates are so expensive, why they can't be in this state, why they need to non-renew all these people, why we're going to cut this coverage out of a policy. Like they're making all of these excuses because of our claim loss history is the biggest it's ever been in the past 20 years. Well, I'm sorry, it's not going to get any better. We're going to have more tornadoes, more floods, more hurricanes, more fires. It's where we are environmentally and the way the world is today, and stop toting these excuses around. and start taking care of people. And you know what? People will stay loyal to your brand when that happens. And start rewarding people for their loyalty. Come on now. The fact that your new customers get better discounts than your customer that's been with you for 30 years is ridiculous.
I know. That's what I never understood that because they would really push on loyalty at the companies that I've worked at,
Yes.
but they didn't pay that back. You know, you may see it on a onesie twosie. Oh, now you don't have to pay your deductible because you've been with us for 20 years and never made a claim, blah, blah, blah. But it's just sad. And the other thing that I think is sad is the way that we communicate why why claims affect policies so much.
Yes. We use words that make no sense to anybody except for the lawyers who wrote them.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many times I got a sheet of paper and this is how you answer this and this is what you say to this. And it was circle, circle, circle. Well, materials are more expensive now.
The cost of labor is more expensive.
The inflation rate.
Yeah. 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 I I can't
And wouldn't
even.
you love, okay, Amy, if you could choose something that someone actually like sat on their laurels about, would you not choose, you know, a big name company uh, sponsoring a sports event so that they can have a cool room upstairs, where they can invite people? Would you be more impressed if they went out and did Habitat for Humanity and did things that reinvested in the communities that they're in?
Yes.
Uh, oh my gosh, I would simply die if one of these companies would go out and say, okay, we have this much money and we were going to use it to buy Beyonce to sing a commercial for us. But instead of singing that commercial, we're going to go visit this place and we are going to give some grant money to help people mitigate risk. We're going to help with their roofs. We're going to look over things that we didn't look at before. We're going to put this in, you are right to invest your premium with us because we're going to invest in you.
I just thought of something we were connecting to earlier. Feed kids.
Yes.
I love
Oh
that.
my gosh. Pay for
Hey,
the summer plans, feed the children and do wonderful things. And I'm telling you, as far as feeling good as an employee, there were never better times than working at the food bank as a team and going to donate your time, working for Habitat for Humanity and helping someone build their house, and helping with, fiscal responsibility and financial responsibility and teaching and mentoring. Those were all the things that people got excited about. And it was never the commercial.
no, like I could be totally fine if I never saw another insurance company commercial ever again. Ever again. And it does nothing and it almost turns me the opposite direction. Like the companies that have these splashy, I'm sorry, the one that, Ludacris is singing in. Y'all have seen it. I know you have. Every time I see it, I roll my eyes and change the channel because I can guarantee the millions of dollars that they paid for him to be in that commercial for 30 seconds could have done so much more anywhere else. You could have taken that money and fed a million kids.
And Amy, that's a cross party line. I don't care what political side you're on. I think that everyone is sick and tired of seeing their insurance money paid to boost something, I would much rather you know, hear from my friend that she got her roof replaced and she was so worried about it and they did this and she's on a fixed income and they knew that and they gave her, they cut her deductible in half because of the amount this was going to cost, like things like that, things that make a real difference, things where you could change a life, especially in this economy. That is what I want to hear about, because I'm telling you right now, with insurance, as much as they like to say, again, the 30 seconds and we'll get you a claim. No, 30 seconds will make your insurance cost $1,000 to $2,000 more a year.
You got a visitor.
I know. Hello.
It looks like you have a tail now.
I know, I do. Meow. That spirit. Anyway, well, Amy, it's been a lot of fun talking to claims with you, and I know we've made this probably longer than it should have. I hope that some people garner some excellent information about this. And what do we need them to do, Amy?
Well, we need to thank you for tuning in and spending time with us today. And if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave a review, share with friends, family, coworkers, stranger in the grocery store. And until next time, stay sassy, stay inspired, and keep the conversations going.
And send us any question you have.
Yes.
We will tackle it and research it for you if there's something that you're worried about. Or just have questions about or want to know why it always works that way. Anyway, out from Policy and Sass.
Bye.